Day? I can remember all 7 of the days. Let's start seated. Something that feels really advantageous for the spinal column. And then we'll just settle into a nice little fluid breath. Something that feels nourishing for the entirety of the body. Really thinking about how you can find more ease in your seat. And I think I say that every class, every week, but I don't think it can be overemphasized. So ease in the seat is what we're looking for. Let's give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. And then as it feels appropriate, we can let the eyes open if they're closed. We're going to play a little bit with hand mobility. So isolating individual fingers, I'm going to show this from the side here, and we're just going to retract fingers, looking to get some of this extension energy into the finger joints. So obviously fingers can be a little delicate, so don't go to the point of harm. And we'll just pull individual fingers back, trying to get into full extension. This is a range of movement that we very infrequently take fingers into. And then once you've gone through, let's start back and go through one more time. And then just release that hand, move both sets of fingers through full range. And then let's take that over to the second side. So just getting into full extension and then moving right along. All these little tiny joints, and then once you go through, we'll go back and go through again. All these little tiny joints, probably more important post-COVID experience in that particular virus seems to be pretty lingering in joint tissue. So if you find yourself with a moment or two going through these little joints and fully extending, probably a good thing to do more often than we do it. And then move those hands and fingers. And that is nice. Let's take the chin down to the sternum with an exhale. Squeeze the shoulders back, splay those fingers out and like wrap them around the thighs. So we're trying to craft some space in between each finger set now. And really, with some level of desire of getting that metacarpal expansion. And then keep that hand space, lift your chin with an inhale. And then we'll relax. And flip the palms over, lay those hands out as wide as you can, and then think about rolling that thumb edge down. As you do that, there's some work on the external shoulder rotation. Then we'll go through our head movement in reverse. So inhale, we'll lift the chin. Exhale, we'll drop the chin. And then we'll release back to neutral. A little soft movement across the shoulder girdle. Let's take our blanket slash towel and whatever we're using as that block approximation. And we're going to go pillow depth on your block. So for most of us, that is going to be on its lowest height. And then our blanket or towel just running up next to that. You can have a little gap, but the key is we want the tailbone on the ground. So for some of us, torso geometry is just going to mean that we pull that block down. So that'll probably be true for me. And so you can just slide that down and crunch that blanket up. You have that space where the neck is. And we're just looking to find here a place where the head feels like it is supported. And then the spine is lifted above the anchoring of the sacrum. And then let's take our palms down. If the palms don't make their way to the ground, lower the hands until they do. If the palms easily make their way to the ground, let's bend those elbows to the point where it feels like they're just barely making that connection. So we're either lowering the hands to make it easier, raising the hands to get more of this internal rotation in the shoulders. And then just start to drift your awareness right to the center of the forehead. And as that awareness starts to lift, note what goes on with the shoulders. For most of us, it's like a tightening and crunching in towards the midline. Think about relaxing that back open. Even as you lift your awareness above the top of the shoulder line. And then we'll relax the arms, remove the headpiece. Now, if you do have the blanket really scrunched up, that's okay because it should go right into that neck space so you get some extension in the middle of the cervical spine. We're ideally looking to release the back of the head down to the mat and then turning the arms out to cactus. We won't be here long, so if you feel like this is a nasal challenge, give yourself 30 more seconds here. Looking to get some open across the interior of the shoulder girdle. And then when it feels appropriate, we'll let the knees fall to one side or the other, whatever side feels best for you. And we're going to press ourselves up into seat. And that blanket can come off the mat, doesn't necessarily need to. Extending the legs out in front of us into staff, just head forward into a traditional seated forward fold. The goal here was to open up the upper back some. So hopefully we have some shoulder, some thoracic space. And then you have the ability to control the knee bend so you can transcend the hamstrings. And then hopefully we can work from the thoracic joint down so we really can isolate some lumbar expansion. If you have the capacity to grasp the toe mounds, you can push those toe mounds further to help accentuate that lumbar space. And then we really slow down our rate of respiration. And we'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds here. And then eventually we will walk our way back up into staff. Let's bend our left knee, let the left knee then fall out wide. Bottom of the left foot comes to that inner thigh on the right leg. And then right hand can come down on that medial line of the right calf there and use that to help rotate into a twist. You can also do this higher on the body if the geometry works better there, but really thinking about full rotation here. And then once you get that full rotation, left hand's going to reach up and we're going to drop that left hand forward. Right hand can extend with us into a fold. You can allow this to come all the way down if that feels accessible to you, nice lateral line expansion, but you don't need to. And so I'm just going to hang here just so you can see that there is that possibility to just offer last big breath here. And then we'll bring ourselves back up into very asymmetrical. Feet extend that left leg and follow that forward into fold. And the fold likely feels pretty different the second time in. Use that lateral space to really help elongate here. And we'll give ourselves 30 more seconds. Remember, as you kind of finish this out, that you can shift and tweak and adjust and explore the possibility of expanded depth. And then we will walk our way back up to staff. Right knee bends, right knee falls out wide. We use that left hand to help us rotate into the twist. We want to get that full rotation first, then right hand reaches up, and we'll find our way into this side bend forward fold combo, really lengthening out those lateral lines. The more you hold that rib cage rotation, the more this is a lateral expander. So it is less about the depth of the forward momentum and more about the combination of full rotation with forward. One more big full breath here. And when you feel appropriate, we'll draw ourselves back up, extend our right leg to mirror the left, and one more time, let's head into this seated forward fold. Just giving in to the space that is available. Last 30 seconds, and last reminder that you can shift and adjust and ease and relax to find every bit of available space in the fold. Last big inhale breath. Full exhale, releasing completely into the space granted, and then we'll walk ourselves back into seat. Let's have our block handy. See if we can get into what I'm thinking here. So let's take our blanket, towel, and get that to towel length. And then we'll just fold that hot dog. And so we end up with a towel length piece that we can put over the ankles. And that's actually tuck that underneath, but keep your feet flat on the ground. So knees are bent, blanket is wrapped around, and we're hoping to get here into a supported bridge with some ankle support. It's not gonna be super easy, and you may need to do some tucking afterwards, but try to set up so you have as little motion as possible. Eventually lowering ourselves to our back, and then lifting up high enough to slide your block or block-like object underneath your tailbone, and then letting your knees fall out wide. Now, the support here isn't going to be as supportive as we'd normally be with the wrap because we have the elevation of the hips. If you need more, you have the ability to make fists of the hands and tuck them underneath the lateral edge there. And if that's not working and you're feeling like this medial line space is too much, or maybe you're feeling like the lumbar ask is too much because we have gone from flexion, 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 flexion into what is some level of extension. If any of that feels too much, you can just pull that block or block leg shape out from underneath your tailbone. Getting into a fluid, easy breath. And just slowing down wherever we've decided to land with the shape. So there's this vast kingdom. And in one of the remote outreaches of this kingdom, there's this very infamous village. The village is infamous for its beauty, its tranquility, the beautiful lake and cove that it sits upon, but it's most well known for the people that live there. The people that live there tend to be the absolute pinnacle of artists, all different sorts of mediums, but they truly craft exquisite art pieces. And it so happens that at the start of the year, the king sends out a word throughout the kingdom that they are looking for a new royal artisan. And that all forms of art are welcome to apply by submitting one piece for the king's review. The kingdom, of course, turns its attention to this tiny little village because of the people that live there. And so the blacksmith of this village, she starts working on this intricate sword, something that is guaranteed to draw the king's attention. And the painters start painting landscapes from around the village using their finest brush strokes and brushes. And the sculptors start picking out their best slabs of marble to start sculpting. The potters start throwing these huge, intricate, and elaborate vases glazing them, putting them in the kiln. In these massive custom-made kilns that they're having to build for each of these pieces. And so the energy in this village is really at an all-time high. We'll give ourselves about 60 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate for you, knees coming back up to neutral. Delicately lifting yourself high enough to slide that block out from underneath you and then releasing your tailbone down. And landing in what should be a lot of space around the sacrum. And letting that settle in. You can remove the blanket. We're going to grab our block or block-like structure. Blanket works here too, but kind of folded into a block-like shape. And that's going to come between the knees as we take the feet out to the width of the mat. You can use the block on a wider shape here too, really wanting to have some pressure in towards this medial energy space. Looking to accentuate the openness around the sacrum, now with a little bit of internal rotation of the hips. And we'll be pretty sacrum focused as we finish things out. And so as the blacksmith works, she's using these incredibly thin layers of steel. And she's folding them over almost in the way a baker would fold over croissant dough, just over and over and over. And she's hammering these thin layers of steel folded on top of one another over and over and over into this incredibly beautiful and intricate sword. And she's using special oxidation techniques to craft this pattern throughout the blade and the handle. And she's bringing in this special leather to craft the grip. If you're a sword expert, you probably know I don't know anything about swords by now. So if I'm using wrong names, sorry, sword experts. Now let's give ourselves like an increase of 5 to 10% squeeze into the block here for the last 30 seconds. So like you're pushing the thighs, the knees in towards one another. The feet stay out wide. Not a ton of pressure, but enough so that you know you're doing it. And then when it feels appropriate, let's pull that block out. We'll bring the knees back out to the width of the mat and then walk the knees and the feet back in line. Left leg extends straight down the mat, and the right knee is going to come across the body into the twist. Now, the goal here is to be very sacrum focused. So left hand is going to come on top of that right thigh. The right hand is going to reach behind you and grab the middle of your pant line. And with the right hand, we're going to pull up, and the left hand, we're going to press down. So with an inhale, we just fill the lungs. And then with the exhale, left hand presses down, right hand pulls up, and then release. And then each time that you exhale, just press down, pull up, and release. Press down, pull up, and release. And now put even more energy into your left leg and push the heel and toe mound flat. So toe mound kind of comes up to be in line. And then give that same exhale, push down, pull up, push down, pull up with each cycle of breath. And then we'll relax that right knee back to mirror the left. It extends down the mat. Arms come out to cactus. Think about balancing the hip line. Cactus or by your side, whatever feels best with your hands. Note if there's any like level imbalance across the front of the hips. And then we'll bend that left knee, pull it across our body. Right hand comes on the thigh, left hand to the middle of that pant line space. And then with the inhale, lungs fill. Exhale, we push down, pull up. And those exhales just become an opportunity to push down, pull up. It's very lumbar to sacrum focused. Eventually, there will be a time when you want to pull those toes up and give those last few little twists with that right leg nice and active. And then there'll be a time when you feel right to come back across the body, extend both legs down the mat, and let your arms come to a place of stillness. Just easing your way in here. The painters are all painting in their specific styles. The Impressionists and the Realists are pushing one another to craft more intricate, beautiful, and expansive paintings. And the potters are building these larger and larger vases. The kilns are starting to become these massive, like, silos of heat. And they're importing in the rarest and finest glazes from around the world. When it feels right for you, let's bend our left knee and then pull the left knee in towards the rib cage with both hands. Think about pulling that left knee towards your left armpit, and then as you do, push the right heel away from you. And so we're looking for this medial expansion right across the groin, right kind of in line with the sacrum, just on the front side. And then relax. Second side, right knee comes up. Both hands can be evolved here, pulling that right knee towards the right armpit and then pushing that left heel away, really thinking about bringing in that cross expansion, bilateral expansion. And then relax. Arms by your side or at cactus. We'll bring both knees into a bent position. Toes and toe mounds and heels actively pushing against the mat, and both of them having an equal amount of energy. So we want the front and back of the foot to have an equivalent connection. And we're going to lift the tailbone maybe like a quarter of an inch off the mat. And then we'll just start to sway the hips as far as feels possible. And so as you're moving here, the lateral edge work that we did at the start of class may come into play. I don't want to say should come into play. It does depend on how your hips are. But we're looking to really move the hips laterally here. Trying to take advantage of the space we have previously crafted for ourselves. And this is lumbar to sacrum connection specific, union specific. And let's go 2 more times in each direction, really trying to accentuate the full capacity of range here. Eventually coming back to neutral and letting both knees fall over towards the left. And just settling into that twist, that wide open, expansive twist. And so the rumors start spreading through the kingdom about all of these incredible artistic expressions that are being crafted. And people start coming to this village just to observe the work that's being done. Like a new level of tourism is crafted from this royal search. And as more and more people see what's being crafted, more and more people come to observe what's being made. And the king starts touring through the kingdom, and he has to do his due diligence, so he goes to all the other villages, and he has this one village set to be his last stop. Everyone is essentially assured that the selection is going to come from one of these artists. So while he's stopping in other villages, he's stopping in other towns, no one's really taking the stops all that seriously. Yet in this one town, things are being taken very seriously. They've set up all these podiums, and the artists are starting to try out their particular works on these podiums to see which work will present itself the best under the specific circumstances in which the king's going to view them. Last 30 seconds here. And eventually, when it feels appropriate, we'll bring our knees back to neutral. Let your body settle in here. It's a nice long twist, a longer twist than we've done in quite some time. And it's after a lot of this mid body work. So reintegrate. And then once you feel aligned, and really use that as your guide, when you feel aligned, knees fall to the second side. And don't be surprised if now going into the second side, this twist has more sensation than normal because of the openness and time, really space and duration that we spent in the first shape. And just know that we'll balance that back out with side two. And so one by one, these artists start narrowing down the works that they're going to display for this royal search. And on the day that the king's going to come, everybody sets out their final presentation. The blacksmith puts up her finished sword, and it is stunning, polished to a mirror. And various paint artists put up their works, sculpture artists, their works, potters, these massive, intricate vases. And all of the podiums are filled except one. And so there's this prankster kind of looking at all these podiums before the king arrives. And he sees this one open, and so he tosses up his basket. It's just a brown basket woven from reeds by this local basket maker. There's no intricacy to it at all. And people start kind of laughing at it. And so as people are just like jeering around this comedic thing that this jokester has done, this prankster has done, the king shows up. And he starts going one by one past these little pedestals, these podiums that have held these works of art. And he's giving each piece their due time and observation, and he's looking at the sharpness of the blade on the sword, and he's really diving into the details, and he's asking questions of the artists. And he gets to the last podium, and it has this bag on it, this basket, woven basket on it. And he picks it up, and he pulls out his canteen of water, and he pours it into the basket. And he holds it up. He sees that no water's coming out. Last 20 seconds here. And he bellows out, "Who made this basket?" No one's standing there presenting it. And the crowd goes instantly quiet. There's like a sharpness to the king's tone for the first time. When it feels right, when it feels appropriate, knees come back to neutral. As the knees come back to neutral, settle and integrate. And then ask yourself if you might want, need, or benefit from anything prior to Shavasana. And if there is anything that would be advantageous for you here, let's offer that now. And then when you're ready for some stillness, let's find your way into a shape where you can appreciate some Shavasana. And so very sheepishly, this woman kind of emerges from the crowd and she says, I made that basket. The king asks, what inspired you to make this basket? And she says, well, my grandmother taught me how to make these baskets, and my mother helped, and they've both passed on this tradition to me. And every day I make baskets for the people of the community, and they use them to carry water or carry their things around. The king looks at the basket and it's still holding this water. The reeds are just so finely woven together. And she's selected as the royal artisan. And she starts making baskets for the kingdom. And they have this huge economic impact. When you're ready to start to move our fingers and our toes. As the baskets go out, they start allowing people to move water further and further away from up into your wrists, your ankles, and your elbows and your knees, from water sources, shoulders and hips, entirety of the spine, your neck, your head, your jaw, your eyes, your tongue. Eventually, the whole body moves, and we utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we are in back into a seat. And so these baskets end up making this kingdom so much more prosperous than it could have ever been. Finding a seat where your spine can be vertical, your eyes can close, your breath can come back to that fluidity. And when it feels appropriate, let's inhale our hands together at heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days and beyond, can you remind yourself that you don't have to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results? And know that those little tiny things you're doing make huge impacts. Thank you so much for being a part of this morning's practice and for being you. Namaste. Happy Sunday, guys. Appreciate the heck out of you being here. Love the heck out of you. Take care of that spinal hip connection today. I'll be back tomorrow night if you want to move, and we'll do this again next Sunday. Love you. See you soon. Mwah.